Welcome back, guys. Today's episode is an absolute treat for anyone who is serious about elevating their points and miles game. I'm joined by Tim Qin, who is the co founder and CEO of Roame Travel. Since starting off his points journey over a decade ago, Tim has earned and redeemed millions of points to travel around the world in first and business class. I love that he created Roame Travel to sort of help us do the same. This platform is really changing the way that travelers can find and book award flights. Think Google Flights for points and miles. So we're going to talk all about, the ever evolving award space. Things are always changing. How Roam Travel can help you navigate some of the changes in finding space, and Tim's best strategies for setting effective alerts to snag those premium cabin flights. This is of particular importance when you're looking to find flights to Asia. If you've ever wondered how to score world-class redemptions, this episode is going to be your blueprint. But before we dive in, especially if you're new to booking flights using points and miles, here are 3 things that you should know. Number 1, award prices are constantly changing, sometimes hourly, and the best deals, they rarely stick around. So don't sleep. I found this out the hard way. If you find something that works, book it now. You ask questions later. Number 2, you should be searching across multiple programs. So never rely on a single airline or a portal to show you the full picture. It's important that you're flexible with your routes and your partners and that you're really searching broadly. I think that can be crucial in finding the best deals. Sometimes they're hiding in foreign carriers or looking for creative routes to get there. You can start with the Google search and see which airlines fly to the places that you want to go, and then just take it from there. Number 3, alerts are your superpower, okay? The people who get premium cabin seats to Asia, they're not lucky, they're prepared. I'm sure there's a little bit of luck involved, but I think part of it is being prepared. And this can mean being ready at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 361 days out to snag that coveted flight and queue suites, or setting real-time alerts so you're notified whenever that premium award space does open up. So there may be a lag between the real time and when the flight actually shows up in those alerts, but I've snagged some really great deals for myself and for my clients by having those alerts set. You want to keep these 3 things in mind when we dive into today's chat with Tim. But if you're ready to elevate your flight booking game, let's go. So welcome back to the show, Tim. I'm so glad that you could be here, and I would love for my audience to get to know a little bit about you. So why don't you start by telling them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, Courtney, thanks for having me. I'm Tim Qin. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Roame, which is an award flight and hotel search engine. Essentially, think of us like a kayak or Google Flights, but except for getting prices in cash, you get the prices in points.
Okay, good deal. So I know a little bit about Rome just because I've been doing some award searches recently. And I know one of the big things that's come up for me, because everyone wants to go to Asia, is that I'm having issues with other award engines not being able to find trips to Asia. And so a lot of people were directing me to your Facebook group. So I spent a little time lurking in your Facebook group. And, I have a couple of subscriptions with you as well. So I know a little bit about Rome, but I would love to hear a little bit more about how Rome actually came to be.
Yeah, definitely. So I've been in points and miles as a hobbyist for over 15 years at this point. Started actually in high school. Back then was collecting United miles, but and actually back then United miles were worth a lot. But had been doing this for quite a bit. I wasn't doing this as a job or anything before. It was really my co-founder and I were spending way too much time searching manually on all these different airline websites. So we created a little program for ourselves and released it for free on Reddit. And it took a life of its own, going viral as well as with the bloggers. So we said if we got into Y Combinator, we would do it full time. And here we are now.
So you started this in high school. So me coming to points and miles, I was in adulthood, I had finished medical school and eventually realized that I, racked up all this debt and I should make some use out of it. So I had this Capital One card that I was using. That was pretty much the only card that I was using and had all these points on it that I later went back and did the points erase feature for. But this was me again, adult. I finally have a job. So you were doing this in high school. I can't even imagine.
Yes, not sophisticated, as I am today in high school, but just collecting miles when fly with United at least.
So what was your first redemption?
Ooh, I don't think I remember my first redemption. It was probably an economy flight on United, but my first class redemption that I remember, it was around the world. I booked US to multiple places in Europe, to Asia and back for in business in first class for only 220,000 United miles, which this was before the big United devaluation 2017. So you can imagine, like today, one business class flight is going to be like 200,000 United miles, right? Let alone around the world in business in first.
Yeah, so was that something that you pieced together by yourself?
Yes, I was literally spending hours on the United website using their multi-city function and just looking at all the dates and all the routes and seeing what I can piece together and ended up getting first class on Air China and first class on ANA way back then, as well as some business classes, but those are very special.
Yeah, well, you came a long way from piecing together economy flights on United.
Yes.
And so, how did you get from that starting point? I'm just learning all these little things about points and miles, and I'm booking with my United miles, and all of a sudden you're booking first class flights. Like, how did you get there?
Yeah, and this is the one advice I give to everyone who just gets started is really don't look at other people who've done this for many, many years, right? Don't compare yourself to them. Everyone starts somewhere and it's never too late to start the journey, right? So for me, it was just, hey, I was collecting United miles and I was redeeming for economy. Then I started searching like, hey, what else can I do with points and miles? How can I earn more points? And I stumbled upon actually the Points Guy blog when he was literally a one person blog back then. And then I would say the first big card I got was the Chase Sapphire Preferred. And honestly, I forget when I got it. It's probably like 2011, 2012, but it was like a metal card. And it was the only metal card back then I was a college student, could get, right? Where anyone population could get. And even Amex Platinum back then was a plastic card. So like that was a big thing. And that sort of just kicked it off into high gear.
So Chase Sapphire was your first transferable currency that you picked up?
Chase Sapphire Preferred. So before it became super popular with the Reserve in 2017.
Okay, cool. And so what's like your go-to card in your wallet right now?
That's a hard question because I probably have more than 30 different credit cards right now. But I will say currently I'm using the Alaska Summit card through Bank of America because I'm trying to earn Alaska loyalty status, which I think is one of the most valuable status programs in the world.
Yeah, so a couple of my points groups are really onto this Alaska and earning status through Alaska and using all these different avenues. So, like we have an Albertsons here, and I know you can link your accounts to through the Cars store, which is like a partner of Albertsons. And then once you do that, then you can start earning points for your grocery shopping and all those things, and transfer them over to Alaska and earn status.
Yeah, I could talk all day about Alaska. Yeah.
What method are you using to earn status with Alaska?
So, multiple different methods, right? So, what is unique about Alaska's loyalty program is you can not only earn status miles based on distance flown, and it's one of the last loyalty programs to do that, but you can also earn loyalty status miles on points redemptions, not only on Alaska, but points redemptions on their partners. So it's actually really easy to get their status if you're doing long hauls, even if you're flying economy, honestly, redeemed on points. And then I'm supplementing it with the Alaska Summit card, which has some great categories like 3x on foreign transactions. That's kind of crazy. So that also builds status as well.
Yeah. So which long haul flights have you taken?
I've taken a lot of long haul flights on Starlux to Taipei this year. Sometimes for work, sometimes for fun, because they use Taipei as sort of a jumping pad to the rest of Asia.
Good deal. Yeah, I see those flights come up often. I'm always like, man, maybe I'm just gonna go hop on a flight. I don't have any particular destination I want to get to, but I'm like, oh, I'd love to try out the airline. How was it for you?
I loved Starlux. It's the third major carrier in Taiwan, so got a lot of love the competition there, but it's brand new, very specific themes, very space themed, but still tasteful and premium feeling, as the name implies. And they have a great lounge in the Taipei Airport Terminal 2, I believe. That's their biggest flagship lounge.
Gotcha. So you're earning points for flights to Taipei, and you're getting those points towards status, and you're using your Atmos Summit card, which earns 3 times back for any international purchases that you're making. So if you're looking to do an international travel this summer, that's definitely a card that I would consider having in your wallet. If you're new to points, I know a lot of times we talk about using transferable currencies to start out, building up your stash, but that's one I think you'd make an exception for. Would you agree?
Definitely. And I'm happy to go through the numbers as well, right? So a Starlux business class flight from, let's just say, San Francisco to Taipei, that's probably around $5,000, give or take. You can book it for 75,000 points on Alaska. So 75,000 points, $750 at 1 cent per point, or you can apply a different cent per point, right? Just think of it roughly as $750 for a $5,000 flight. And then because it's almost 5,000 miles flown from SFO to Taipei, I think it's a little bit under that, you earn 5,000 miles of elite status with Alaska, even though you redeem points. So it's a great program.
Yeah. And so have you reached status already or
I have status, but I'm trying to go for their highest titanium, I believe. I'm gonna hit platinum, but in a few weeks, and I'm trying to go for titanium.
once you have status with Alaska, you'll have status with other airlines as well in their lines, right?
Yes. So Alaska's unique or that it's also part of One World in addition to American Airlines. So you can really have there's two US airlines in One World, right? And then with the highest tier status, which is Alaska's either platinum or titanium, you get One World Emerald, which will open up a lot of first class lounges around the world, even if you're flying economy. The only restriction, obviously, is outside of North America, and you have to be flying at least a flight on a One World partner.
So how do people access some of these flights and all these opportunities that you talk about? Because I know trying to find flights to Asia specifically has been a little challenging.
Yeah. So, really, one, I would try to understand the ecosystem, right? Which credit card points transfer to where, which loyalty programs have the best redemptions, both on themselves as well as redemptions for their partners. And you would want to make test searches yourself, right? So, create your loyalty accounts on all the different airline websites, including non US airlines. You want to do some searches just to see what's available. And then you can start going more advanced and using a tool like Roam, which will search across 26 different airline loyalty programs for you at just one click of a button.
So you mentioned setting up loyalty accounts with different programs. So are there any particular ones that you would suggest starting with?
Yeah. Well, start off, definitely sign up for all the US airline. Just do all of them. United, Delta, AA, Alaska, JetBlue, etc. And then branching out from there, I'll listen to the top programs that everyone should have an account already. So Virgin Atlantic, Air Canada, Air France, Flying Blue, what else? Singapore Airlines, Cathay, Avianca Life Miles. There's still a bunch of other ones, but these are some of the big ones you definitely need accounts for.
And so using Roam, how does that work for people? Because I know it's easy to say, "Yeah, just go ahead and set up all these award accounts," and you're just like, "Huh?" Like, I know, like, me a year ago, I probably would have been like a deer in headlights going, "You want me to set up how many accounts?" And now I probably have an account for, like, every airline just because I'm always running searches. But it's time consuming to go through each account or through each airline and try to find flights. So, like, I do award searches for people, and I help people book award travel. And everyone, like I said, wants to go to Asia. So I have people who want to go to Japan, and I've got people who are wanting to go to Bali, and they're very specific sometimes about the airport they wanna fly from. Some are like, "No, I don't wanna fly from LAX," or, "Yeah, I definitely wanna fly from SFO," and it's like, "Okay." But to go through each individual website and to, put in your destination and your dates and, their flexibilities, if you're doing each individual airline, that's a lot of work because you have to go back out, and then next thing you know, the system has kicked you out, and then you have to log back in again and, all these things. So you've done something to help simplify this process for people by creating Roam. And how do people access that?
Yeah, definitely. So all you have to do is go to the Rome website, roame.travel, and you'll see it's very familiar. It's just like if you go to Kayak or Google Flights, right? You choose your fare class, number of travelers, origin, destination, dates. and then we'll search the different loyalty programs for you in real time, and we'll give it to you really quickly, right? You can also serve live real time across multiple dates, up to 7 days at a time, if you would like, or you can use more advanced features, right? I can go into advanced features, right? If you turn on Skyview, you can search region to region, 60 days at a time. So you can search all of the US to East Asia, or only California, or West Coast to East Asia, or US to Europe, for example, right? And you'll see all the availability that Rome has found over the past 4 days, and it'll be just like a snap. So the way I really want to give advice here is make some manual searches by yourself, even if you're just using United, Delta, or American Airlines. So you get a sense of prices, right? You get a sense of how the word searches go. And then you can use a tool like Roam where you're seeing all these different availability, right? And then once you see the availability, you can maybe start creating accounts. You're like, oh, I see this great business class flight on Air France for 60,000 miles. Maybe I should be creating a Flying Blue Air France account. So just take it step by step. If you try to do everything at once, you will be overwhelmed.
Yes.
Even for me, right? I have a spreadsheet to take track of all my credit cards. I have to remember all my loyalty programs. So that's all saved as well. So yeah, you can be easily overwhelmed, but don't let that stop you.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. Go and start. And so Roam allows you to access a free search tool. Is that right?
Mhm.
And so you can go and just run a mock search and say, yeah, I know that I want to fly from Las Vegas to get to Korea. And, you put in your dates and just see what comes up for you. And you may look at it and go, there's no way I'm paying 1.2 million points to be able to, hop on that flight. And then you may just have to be a little bit more flexible with your dates or, which airport you're wanting to fly from and say, maybe I'm going to search LAX to get here. But at least you can get a feel for which airlines are going there. And then that can kind of help you narrow down which airlines I need to set up account with because it's time consuming also to go through and set up these accounts. And then you have certain airlines where they want an account for every single person that you're searching for. So if you're searching for a family of four, and you're like, "Okay, I'm going on Japan Airlines and I have to create an account for, each one of these people to be able to look for flights," that can be a little challenging and a little off-putting. So I think it's nice that you have this feature where you can, kind of aggregate all the data and then decide which airlines you wanna focus your attention on.
Definitely. And you bring up a great point about Japan Airlines. So I'll say for us, Tokyo represents 11% of our entire volume of searches, that one city. So there's a huge amount of competition for Tokyo. And that's why it's often harder to find. I'm happy to go into strategies of like, hey, maybe you don't go to Tokyo first. You go to like a Taipei or a Seoul.
Please do.
Yeah, no, I can get into that. So I think right now, a lot of people wanna go to Tokyo, and it's very possible, but just know that your first search is probably not gonna reveal anything. Maybe your 10th or 20th search won't reveal anything, right? But you need to make sure you understand where the routes are even are. So I'll say, like, it has to be major airports the easiest, right? Like LAX, San Francisco, Seattle, Houston, Dallas, JFK, Chicago, and IAD, Washington. They have the most routes to Tokyo. And if you want to search from a smaller airport, it's possible, but then you're relying on a domestic connecting flight, which makes it even harder because not only do you have to find that major international route, you also have to have like a or Alaska or United or Delta, right? That also has a connecting flight. So that's number one. And so there's flexibility in which city you need to go to. And then you need to understand, hey, what am I even going for? Am I going for ANA, which is one of the largest airlines, or is the largest airline in Japan, or Japan Airlines, which is the second largest? Or do I not care? I can fly United Polaris there in business class, or even Alaska's Seattle to Seoul route, right? And then take another city there. So once we get into positioning, like I would say, hey, get to East Asia first, or Asia in general, and then taking a domestic or short haul economy flight in cash is a lot easier. So that's why I often advise, like maybe you're not even just positioning within the US. You might position to a Seoul in South Korea, a Taipei, Taiwan, Hong Kong, or Singapore, for example. And then you can book a short or medium haul to Tokyo.
So, do you notice that it's easier to find redemptions from, like, North America versus, like, looking in places like, Canada or Mexico to get to Asia?
I will say it's easier in the United States to a certain extent, just because we have a larger population and there's more major cities that serve and airports that serve Asia. And it's also going to be easier from the West Coast versus the East Coast.
And so, any, I guess, tips for being able to book flights to Asia? Like, I know you've mentioned looking at those, positioning flights and positioning to different major airports, but in terms of, like, timing or, other things to increase your chances to.
I'll talk about general timing stuff before getting to, hey, if you can use the Roam tool, what would you do? So general timing is airlines typically release one first class and maybe one or two business class award seats right at the start of their award calendar. So what is the start of their award calendar? So each airline has a different calendar of how far in advance you can book a flight. So that typically ranges from 330 days in advance to 300, I believe 61 days in advance is what I've seen. And right at the start for those specific airlines, you will want to refresh right when it opens. And so that's an easy way to get a redemption. And you can just Google this and just search current or just say Google award calendar release and just go through some of the articles. They'll show you how many days and which day, how far it is right now. The other way is you're patient and you don't get anxious. So this is probably for the single traveler, maybe the couple, is you book within 1 to 2 weeks of travel. And obviously, that presents its own complications where, hey, you don't have necessarily hotels or activities booked as you like, but there are usually a lot of good business class opportunities, sometimes first class as well, within 2 weeks of travel. And that's when they release it because they're going to expire. Those seats are going to expire anyway. So there are some consistent patterns there. Obviously, there are exceptions, right? Like Thanksgiving, Christmas, or Sakura season in April for Tokyo, like even waiting within the last 1 to 2 weeks may not help you there. And third, the last option is, hey, there are just available seats that pop up throughout the year, whether from other people canceling or the airlines themselves just releasing more seats. That's where Roam really comes in handy, where if you're pro, you can set up alerts where Roam will search on your behalf for your specific route. So we'll just send you either an email, an iOS notification, or SMS when that alert pops up.
And how often are you seeing availability for, like, families? So, it's nice when you have a couple or, individual person because I see flights all the time. I'm like, "I can go by myself, but I've got a husband and 2 kids, and so if I wanna bring them along, how do I find the best availability?" If I miss that particularly if I miss that, like, 330-day window when, like, Singapore Air first drops their flights, like, what do I do then?
Yeah. Families 4, 5 are much harder, to be honest. I'm assuming you're asking about Asia/East Asia. So for East Asia, it's gonna be hard. I typically advise, hey, consider splitting up into different fare classes, right? If you can fly in 2 seats in business, book the rest in premium economy or economy. Or you can split up into different flights. That's harder for a family, obviously, but you need to get a little bit creative. Let me just go through some of the four-seaters I've seen. For ANA, that's usually to Tokyo. I've very rarely seen 4 seats. It is possible. It's not, like, completely impossible, but it's very rare, especially if you're gonna be booking ANA through Air Canada's Aeroplan program or Virgin Atlantic's own loyalty program. For Japan Airlines, also rare, but surprisingly more availability in Japan Airlines business class for 4 seats. Usually I see this with Alaska Airlines last minute, so like the week before. We'll see if that pattern holds, but definitely I've seen that more than ANA. The other option is if you have Capital One miles or City Thank You points, you can transfer your points to EVA Air, and their program's called Infinity Mileage Lamps, which is a pretty cool name. And within 2 weeks of travel, typically you can find 4 seats in business class pretty consistently for 75,000 points each. So you'll be flying usually West Coast to Taipei, and then you can book a cash fare to like Tokyo or wherever else you want to go in East Asia.
Well, that's good to know because I think you can if you know that you need those dates, you can always book like a premium economy or, economy flight and know you have some way to get there or to return. And then 2 weeks out, you can potentially book something with points. So it's not too late. So if you're looking at summer travel and you don't have a Capital One or a City card, it might be the next card to add to your arsenal. So that way you're ready to book those EVA Air flights. Are those flights typically easy to book? Like, what's the booking process look like through EVA?
Definitely create all your loyalty accounts for your entire family at Eva before, because Eva's booking process, one, you have to find how to redeem on miles, which is hidden. It's not sort of just the toggle on the home page. And then two, you have to get the username and password for your entire family, even if you're booking on your account. So it's a very involved process. So just prepare ahead of time. And lastly, points transfers to Eva take a few business days. So there's also some risk that by the time your points make it to your bank account, I mean, your Eva mileage loyalty account, the flights might disappear.
Okay. Do they hold flights for you?
I am not sure, to be honest. I haven't asked them to hold the flights, so I can't comment there.
Yeah, I know it's always a challenge for people with A&A. I've had people who have gotten their points locked up in A&A and they're, looking to try to find some award space before their points expire. And I know that that's not one where you're going to have much luck. And again, it's going to take a while for your points to get there. So I didn't realize that about EVA. So
Yeah. And then, well, this is obviously for East Asia, right? But for Europe, it's actually a lot easier because you can find pretty consistently, although still very rare, forward seats on Air France business class to Paris. It's going to be easier if you're on the East Coast than if you're on the West Coast, but I see that pretty frequently. And then if you're willing to put up with a little bit higher, like $500 in taxes and fees, Virgin Atlantic typically has some great deals to London in their business class. I've seen them, well, it depends. East Coast is probably around 29,000, 30,000 per ticket. And then West Coast, I've seen probably mid 40s, high 40s thousand.
yeah, so a lot easier to get to Europe on a lot of different airlines and to get your extended family to Europe than it is to get to Asia. But I know Asia's a lot longer flight, and it's nice to be able to fly and sleep when you're going on, that 10, 12, 16-hour journey. So,
Exactly. If you want to know a secret hack for those here, you may consider going to East Asia or Asia through Europe. So and take the long way around. It's still in business class, but those are less desirable for obvious reasons. It's the longer flight.
yeah. So less desirable because it's longer, but better availability?
Mm. So I can give you some examples, right? I've seen business class via Doha on Qatar Airways, business class to Asia. I've also seen pretty consistently Condor Airways redeemed via Alaska Airlines. You stop over in Frankfurt to Asia. I've also seen some with Turkish Airlines as well.
So you just pack for, Frankfurt and you pack to be prepared for Asia as well, I guess.
Wow. Well, you basically just stay at the airport, to be honest. The layover is usually like 8 to 12 hours. So by the time you get out through immigration and customs, you only have a few hours left.
Yeah. I feel like if I'm gonna fly all the way that way, I would wanna get out and, like, see something. I'm passing through Frankfurt, I might as well get out and, explore the city. Wonder if they do stopovers.
I haven't booked them like that, but there might be. I believe do stopovers like that.
Yeah. So what's one of, like, the most interesting, alerts you guys have sent out that you've seen someone book?
Most interesting. So a couple times this year, actually. So Japan Airlines recently became partners with JetBlue, and there must have been something with the technology system on the JetBlue side where I think this was March or April. Every single route, every single date, there was available 2 seats in their new Japan Airlines first class from JFK, from Dallas, from LAX. That was crazy because they usually only release 1 ticket, right? I'm pretty sure it was a mistake on the report, but JetBlue has honored, those redemptions, and so has Japan Airlines, which is good for them.
Yeah, so did you hop on any of those?
I did. I did. They were quite pricey. but 2 tickets in Japan Airlines new first class on the A350 is extremely hard to get, almost impossible, and there's only 6 seats in that first class.
So I have to wonder if everyone who was on that flight with you was on an award booking.
Maybe. Well, the last time I flew it was just me and my co-founder because we booked in, there's no one else, so it's 2 of us, but we'll see in the future.
So how do people find out about these deals when they pop up?
So, because we built on the Roam side and extremely sophisticated technology in terms of helping everyday Americans find these deals, we see the data, right? The data is coming in. We'll have alerts that are saying like, "Hey, there's a big release of Japan Airlines first class, right? 2 seat availability." So I'll know about that. We also have a large Facebook group, so sometimes we get tips there when they notice weird things.
Yeah, I like the Facebook group, but usually by the time it's landed in the Facebook group, it's because someone's like saying, "Hey, I just booked this." And I'm like, "Oh man, that would have been a really, a really sweet deal."
Yes.
People can sign up for your newsletter. Is that right?
Yes, we also have a free newsletter that you can just sign up for. Just put your email on the Roam homepage on the bottom, or you can just go to roam.travel/newsletter.
Okay. And is there a difference between the free newsletter and the paid newsletter?
So there's no paid newsletter, but there are paid pro alerts. So those are custom alerts that you set based on your criteria. Like think of it, max points, which programs you care about, which airlines you care about, which routes, which dates, right? Those are the pro alerts where you fully control exactly what you want. For the free newsletter, it's hand curated deals that our team finds using Roam, and we send them out. That's sort of like just a stamp of approval almost. We're like, hey, these are good deals, and we consider them good deals because we get asked a lot, what is a good deal?
Yeah. So how do you decide? How do you know like if it's a good deal and like how do you decide whether you're going to pay cash or you're going to pay points to book a flight?
So I won't get into the super nitty math and formulas, especially if people are just starting out. The way I tend to think about it is I want at least 5 cents or 8 cents per point when redeeming for business class, and more than 10 cents per point when redeeming for first. How that actually plays out, I'll just give you some rough ranges from US to Asia or US to Europe, for example. So, US to Europe, you're typically looking at these are the best deals. So, you don't have to book these, you can book a little bit higher, right? The best deals are probably around 30,000 to 60,000 in business class. 60,000 would be the saver fare on Air France and KLM to Europe. 30,000 would be Virgin Atlantic business class, and in between, you have some Iberia, Aer Lingus business class for Europe. And then if you really wanna, like, book some specialty, like, I don't know, Swiss Air or some, Singapore Airlines to Frankfurt, that might be 60K or 75K depending on where you book it. To Asia is a little bit harder, but I would say the rough rule of thumb would be business class around 60 to 88,000 points. And that's sort of the saver fares for ANA, Japan Airlines, United, Polaris booked with, well, actually booked on their own metal as well as with Air Canada, right? So that's pretty consistent value, but I would go even as high as 110,000 points for business class to Asia.
Okay, that was gonna be my next question. Like, if you see there's like flight to, and you're trying to get to Bali, and there's, you can spend $7,000 for the flight versus paying, 300,000 points. What would you do? Like,
So really, this will come down to the individual. So I'll start with number one. Number one, Bali's hard to get to, regardless if you're looking for points for cash. So there's going to be a stop, right? At least one.
yeah,
The way I would think about it is what is the perfect flight for you? Don't think about like what the creators talk about or you and I talk about, right? Does that day and time work for you, whoever you're traveling with, right? If it does, then hey, it's maybe good for you to book. Assuming the cents per point is good, right? Even 7K to 300,000, right? That's still above 2 cents per point. Not the best deal. I probably wouldn't book in. But again, these are your points. Don't feel pressured to only use them a certain way because if you don't use up your points, they end up losing value when airlines devalue their loyalty program. And that happens every single year across many different airlines. So Yeah, don't let anyone else make you feel bad for your redemptions.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the challenges that I face because for me, convenience is huge. So I know that we can only travel at a certain amount of time, or like if I'm traveling, if it's just me and my husband, okay, like, yeah, we don't mind stopping in multiple places. But if I have, the kids or like my mom, and I'm thinking about us all having to like, position to this place, and then we've got to take three, connecting flights to get to this place so I can save, 40,000 points per person. So I may just decide I'm just going to go ahead and blow those points and then I'll figure out a way to earn them back. So I think it is very individualized. Whereas, like, when we went to Hawaii, my husband's like, "We're not flying business class," and I'm like, "It's a 6-hour flight. No, I'm saving those points, and we're gonna be in economy." So, definitely, depending on where we're going and who we're traveling with and deciding for myself how many points I'm actually willing to spend. Obviously, we all love those dream redemptions, and we wish we could, find the sweet spot every single time, but just knowing it's not always possible, especially if you're not, that flexible in terms of, like, the people that you're traveling with or the dates that you wanna go. Everyone wants to go during spring break and Christmas break and summer break, and it's like,
Those are the hardest times. Yeah.
they are. So I think airlines are definitely changing the way that they do things, and redemptions are always changing, and like devaluations are always happening. So, where do you see award travel going within like the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah. So I think there's always going to be a push and pull between how much airlines devalue versus consumer demand, right? Because at the end of the day, airlines make a ton of money from credit card points. Actually, if you look at the US airlines, more of their profitabilities from their loyalty program, points and miles, and their credit card program than actually flying, right? So it's hard to say, but my theory is there's only so much airlines can devalue without there being some kind of alternative reaction. What is an alternative reaction? It's, hey, you're just going to see higher credit card sign up bonuses, which we have been seeing, right? It used to be that you go back to early 2000s, like 10,000, 25,000 points for signups, right? Now, I think I've been seeing 200,000, 250,000 for either Amex Platinum or Chase Sapphire Reserve, which is kinda crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate the higher sign up bonuses, and I know it's getting towards the end of the year, and I've got some expenses and taxes coming up, so I'll be looking for all those Amex no lifetime limit offers coming through. It definitely helps. I haven't been in the game nearly as long as you have, and so I haven't seen all the changes that have, played out, but you always hear about, like, the good old days and, like, points and miles when, people were able to make these really good redemptions and they had these really good programs, and so, it's interesting to see how the scenery is just changing and how you guys are evolving and keeping up with it.
Yeah, and definitely for our philosophy is we wanna make dreams come true, right? So for most people, including myself before I used points to fly business or first, because never imagined it could have been possible. So that's sort of the joy we're trying to give to people and to help people find, because everyone has a lot of points in the US, but booking that business class or first class for 50K, 60K, that's what everyone's looking for.
Right, right. So, can you share with us anything that you see happening with Rome or coming to the platform in the near future that we should be looking forward to?
Well, so Rome currently we serve both award searches for flights as well as hotels. Some unique aspects we have is obviously we search Cathay, Singapore, British Airways, for example, that other tools may not have. But I think overall, we just want to make the Roam tool a lot easier to use and help you find those deals quicker, right? So that's why we have alerts. We're going to also have a recommendation engine pretty soon. And we'll have a big announcement next year about how you can earn points through Roam. So that'll be fun.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing that. I know we've been seeing a lot of that coming from um, other sources just like in the last few months. So it'll be interesting to see how you guys come into that game as well.
Yeah, that's an exciting time.
Yes. So if people are interested in signing up for your newsletter or, they want to get involved and find you on social media, where can they go?
Yeah, so if you want to sign up for our newsletters, all you have to go is to our website, Roam.travel, spelled ROAME.travel/newsletter, or you can just go to our homepage to access the tool. You can also reach out to us on Instagram at Roam.travel or just email us support at Roam.travel. We also have a Facebook group of over 200,000 people that love to help each other out. So just Award Travel by Rome if you want to join that.
Yes, so and I definitely recommend getting involved in the Facebook community and even signing up for, their search tool if Asia's on your radar. And you can search for other places, so it's not specifically Asia, but again, I did kind of hone in on the fact that I can search for airlines that are going to get me to Asia that I can't find in other search engines. And it definitely has made my life easier. So thank you for creating that. And thank you for providing access to so many people who are, really just wanting to create memories and, have these experiences that wouldn't be possible without points and miles.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm going to make sure that we post all that information in the show notes. That way people know where to find it and can access all these incredible opportunities.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.